what am I doing?
Meanwhile, you have like 10,000 other things going on.
That is the new the world as far as these Zoom operations go, but you know, we're getting used to it. But I think that's just such a lovely and important. I mean, it's a belief system, you know. It's an area that you can go into this. You can go into reading your book thinking it's going to help you become a better stand-up comedian, and then in the end, it ends up being, you know, life-changing. It can, you know, affect your life in such a
it helps you become a better stand-up comedian, but it helps you pursue it in a way that makes you not want to kill yourself.
Yes.
Because, you know, comedy can drive you crazy. It drags out all of your demons kicking and screaming that you thought you dealt with or that you didn't even know you had, because everybody's so focused on that result, that making it, that fame. You know, Alan Watts says the purpose of dancing is not to land on a certain spot on the floor when the music stops.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of dancing is to dance.
Yeah.
The purpose of doing comedy is not to take over the Tonight Show.
Right.
It's not to be rich and famous. The purpose of doing comedy is to do comedy.
Wow, Bobbie. Yep.
And while you're always focused on that carrot at the end of the stick, while you're always focused on the carrot at the end of the stick, you're obsessed with this idea, and it just of making it, and it infects your art. It infects the way you write, not just affects, infects and corrodes it. And so instead of writing from your true self, you're doing that thing where people, you know, like so many comedy books. The reason why I wrote my comedy book is so many comedy books tell you to take a tiny little aspect of your personality and blow it up into this huge caricature and base an entire career on that. And you can never talk about anything else.
Huh.
Right? So if all you care about is being rich and famous, then yes, be hack.
Right.
Definitely be hack sales. But if you want to actually see this as a, you know, no matter whether you realize it or not, everything you take up, you're making a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want this to be, am I going to follow this path in a way that gives me one more thing that the voice in my head can torture me with?
Right.
Or am I going to use this as a path to my true self?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're talking about, doing comedy to discover yourself and your position in the world and what you care about, and you know, and not to get this thing, because you know what, the carrot is always at the end of the stick.
Right. And if you're always just reaching and never enjoying the moment, you're just going to be miserable. You said.
Right, and then you do get the carrot. Let's say you get the carrot, you're only happy like a minute.
Yeah.
Because then there's a new carrot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so everything you get, you're not going to get it in the future. You're going to get it in the now.
Yeah.
And if you haven't made friends with the now, you can't even be present with that thing when it happens.
Right. Exactly.
So it's about being process oriented and being organic and not contrived, and to just kind of using it as a way to discover yourself and to process life.
That's amazing. What have you found that this sort of, I mean, that mindfulness and your own teachings, have you found it helpful for yourself within, especially right now during the quarantine? Have you had to like revamp it or come back to it for yourself?
Yeah. Oh my God, so much. So like most comedians, I'm really damaged, and I had a really kind of crappy, you know, childhood. And I was in therapy from the time I was in third grade. I started seeing a psychiatrist in third grade and until I was in college, and then even recently. Mm-hmm. And I've been in 2 different psychiatric hospitals in high school and in college. Mm-hmm. And I just wish at some point in that journey, at any point in that journey, someone had said the words meditation to me. And mindfulness.
Nobody ever did, Bobbie?
No, I mean, really, but you know, I was in group therapy a few years ago, the most recent time I was in therapy, and they talked about meditation and mindfulness. But in the 80s, meditation was not an aspect of therapy. And it's just changed my whole life. I mean, I have that voice that's always running and usually criticizing me. And to be able to have that gift of knowing how to turn it off. knowing how to take breaks from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the voice is supposed to be something that we use when we need, like to do math or to plan trips or,
Yeah.
you know, when we need to think about something. But it's supposed to be able to, we're supposed to be able to take breaks from it.
Right.
You know, and those breaks are where all the creativity comes from, where all the ideas come from. You know, I read a book called The Tao of Physics, and the guy who wrote it, Frijol Capra, said that every great leap in science occurred and every great problem in science was solved when the scientists left the lab, left the chalkboard, and went for a walk.
Oh, wow.
Or took a shower.
Yeah.
Or had dinner and created space between them and the thing. Because those solutions, those aha moments need a place to move into.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That just needs a place to move into, because you do hear that quite often, that's when the breakthroughs come, is, you know, go take a nap, go take a shower, whatever you need to do, just get out of your head and then come back to it.
But it's so easy to approach comedy like, oh, what's funny? What can I
Yes.
write about? Oh, let me just like agonize. But I'm talking about living your life in such a way that you are always seeing the comedy around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're showing up in your own life. You're present in your own experiences. And, you know, there's a story in Hinduism that says God split itself into every possible thing. Every rock, every tree, every squirrel, every person, so that it could see itself from every possible point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So it is your job given to you by the universe to report back to the rest of us how things look from your point of view.
Wow.
So your voice matters.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how things look from your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to do that, instead of just this narrator going in your head where you walk down the street and it goes tree, rock, that woman I hate, you know, instead of just being present with that, you know, then you're like, oh, what's funny? But if you're showing up in your own life and present in your own experiences, you're like, oh, okay, let me. And then that way, you know, everything's been done to death. Every idea you ever had, George Carlin already did an hour on it.
Right.
Richard Pryor already did an hour on it. You know, we're not the first one to have a crazy family. You're not the first person to internet date. You're not the first person to talk about Tide Pods or the quarantine. You know, but you're the only person who can tell us what that thing looks like from your point of view.
Right. Yeah.
So if you write from the voice in your head, you're going to come up with the most cliche thing about it that everybody's writing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you write it from your authentic voice, your true self, then you're going to have a perspective to it that other people don't have.
That's very true. And that's why a lot of the times, you know, if you're working with a comedy coach or a close friend or someone who knows your self and your voice, you can get suggestions as far as jokes or punchlines that can be quite funny. But when I find a lot of times you get out of the blue, some random comedian being like, hey, you know what, you should go with this direction. And you're like, that is not anything I would ever say in any world. And also not very funny. It's like, it's because that's that person's point of view and you are trying to tell your point of view.
Yeah, I'm always like, you should write that joke.
Yes, yeah, that's a great response. Like, you know what?
You should go tell that joke.
Yeah. I've gotten, I mean, we all have just so many suggestions from, I mean,
men.
Space, yeah, I was going to say call space. It's usually men just being like, oh, this is what you should say. No, that's not a person would say. But, you know, I am glad too that you said, oh, there's that woman I hate, because that is something that almost all female comedians have to deal with, and is one of the reasons why I love your comedy studio so much, is that it does provide a safe space for women comedians, not even just like safe, but like a celebrated space. It is, I mean, to the fact that, I don't know if, I'm sure it's still there, but you have, you know, female comedian record albums on the walls, and like, just, it's a very welcoming environment for women. You have the female only mic as well. I'm assuming it's still Monday
night. Yes, the longest running women only mic in Los Angeles.
Wow,
it's 8 years old. Yeah, and so see, everything I do, all the open mics I do, all the shows I do, the space I create, the Laugh Riot Grrrl Comedy Festival, everything I do is a reaction to a bad experience I had. So we all know as women that very often you go to an open mic and you're the only woman there, or you're one of only a few women there, and it's just all rape jokes. And,
Yep.
and so many people are being creepy to you after, and the bathroom's disgusting.
Yep.
And, you know, it's just a not
Pleasant
friendly
experience.
it's
Yeah.
it's an environment that feels like they're specifically saying to you, you're not wanted.
Yeah. You're not welcome here. You're gonna
Right.
toxic.
And so I started a women only open mic so that we could just have that chance to all come together and bond in the absence of men. And see, what happened is I used to have a women only mic at before I opened out at this awesome place called Dave's Chillin' and Grillin'.
Okay.
And I would notice that when men, you know, it was a sandwich shop, so anybody could come in. So I noticed when all the women were there and there was nobody else there, there was this thing that happened that was just like magical. But then if other, you know, if like a guy would come in to order a sandwich, like all the women would start acting differently.
Oh, really?
They wouldn't say what they were planning to say. They wouldn't be as like, I don't know, open or
helpful.
You know, and we're just like suddenly, because, you know, we're taught to compete with each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially like in comedy, there's 10 guys in a show and one woman.
Yep.
And we're mad at the one woman. Like, how'd she get that? We should be mad that there are 10 guys.
Right.
So we're taught to compete with each other. So we all changed. So when I opened my own space, I made it so that the entire environment was that we only have comedians in there, no audience. And it's just a magical place. You know, like I said, I've been doing comedy 31 years. I early on in that mic, I looked around the room and I was like, I have never been in a room with 25 female comics in my life.
Yeah.
In 30 years of doing comedy, never been in a room with my peers. But male comics get to experience that every night.
Every single night, yeah.
They get to be in a room with male comics, and that's great. That's awesome for them. But we wanted that too. I had a guy do our Zoom mic recently who was from out of town, and the mic was like half women, and he complained that the mic was too female.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine if we walked into a mic that was half men and complained it was too male?
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I also have plenty of mics that men come to also.
Right.
And we have an LGBT plus open mic that is just amazing. We have, you know, regular open mics also. And our shows are, we never have more than a 50% male lineup. So it's 50% men, 50% women, except for our Pussy Riot show that benefits the downtown women's shelter. That's mostly women in that show. And our festival, you know, Laugh Riot Grrrl, Punk Rock Feminist Comedy Festival, has lots of dudes in it.
Yes. Yeah. Just because that's such an important note, like just because a space is welcoming to women, it does not mean it's not welcoming to men. And that is something that's like, I wish I could just like shove in men's face, because most of them don't understand that. And it's we're not excluding.
Yeah, I get called sexist all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't tell you how many men have thanked me for the environment that I've created.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
How many men have said to me that this is just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
That you know, it doesn't feel toxic. It doesn't. We won LA Weekly's Best of LA.
Wow.
Yes, best place for women comics. We won Open Mic Reviews, which is voted on by comedians all over LA. We won Best Safe Space Mic and Best Place to Do Your First Set.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and we celebrate women, but we also love our comedy brothers. We love having them there. And the kind of guys that come there are just so cool.
They're so cool, and they're also funny too. That's the other thing. They're funny. They work hard. They know to keep up with all the women in the room. They've got to work hard, because I mean, maybe this is generalizing, but I find women, they are the hardworking comedians. There's been plenty of mics that I've gone to, or shows even that I've gone to, where it's like, if you find the women comedians, they're all like, we're all over top our notebooks. We're writing. We're talking, but we're talking about our jokes or whatever. And then I mean, there are guys doing it too, but more times I see guys, they're the ones who are playing around, drinking, throwing things around. And
And
then
what
get
people
up there
don't
and
seem
start.
to understand is, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Oh,
you.
no, yeah. Go ahead.
What people don't seem to understand is that boys control open mics and women control audiences. Because audiences are not just a bunch of comics, they're real people.
Yeah.
And so they tend to come in couples, the majority heterosexual couples.
Right.
And it's always the woman statistically who decided to go and who made the reservation or bought the ticket. And so if you, just because you can make a bunch of guys in an open mic laugh and you're only going to open mics with guys, you think a joke is working, you think a joke is killing, and then you get it in front of a regular crowd and it doesn't work.
Right.
So it benefits you to have an open mic where there are women. Because it helps you know what's working.
What's working and what isn't. Absolutely. That's such a great point. Audiences, the best ones anyways, they're made up of several demographics and several age groups. And it's not just the same,
It's not like 30-year-old guys.
30-year-old guys, yeah. I mean, exactly.
Or 20 to 30-year-old guys.
20 to 30-year-old guys, yeah.
I'm married to a male comic, so I mean, I love male comics.
Yeah, that's important. No, Chris is very active with the community.
And hilarious. But there are a lot of guys who, a feminist doesn't just mean woman.
Right.
And by the way, just because someone is a woman doesn't mean they're a feminist. Just because it's a female comic or a female comedy teacher doesn't mean they're a feminist. And just because they're a feminist doesn't mean they're a woman.
Right.
So, there are lots of guys Obama identifies as a feminist. Jimmy Carter, the Dalai Lama, they all identify as feminists. And basically feminism just means, that women are have equal opportunity, equal political, socioeconomic opportunity. But we're not just, this is important to note, we're not just feminists, we're intersectional feminists.
Okay.
And what intersectional feminist means is that feminism is not just about white women. It's not just about straight women. It's not about upper class women. Like intersectional feminism recognizes that, there's an intersection of issues that women deal with that aren't all, gender.
Yeah.
White women make like 75% on the dollar. Women of color make even less than that.
Right.
So we're always talking about 75% on the 75% on the dollar, but
it's like that's even cut down.
Yeah, it's even lower for women of color.
Right.
So women of color and gay women of color, there's so many levels of issues that you have to recognize and realize that even as women, we're not all treated the same. White women prop up the patriarchy because they benefit from it. Yeah. And so we have to be aware that any feminism that does not include LGBT, including the T, because there are transphobic, there are trans exclusive feminists. They're called TERFs.
There's a name for them. I did not know.
Yeah, it's called, it stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists.
Oh my God.
And also intersectional feminism tends to be sex positive. And there's also feminists who are anti-sex worker, and that they're called SWERFs. I swear to God. There's sex worker exclusionary radical feminists. So we say if you don't embrace all women, you don't not just welcome women of color, but encourage women of color to have voices and to be part of the conversation, and trans people and every type of person there is, then it's not true feminism.
Yeah. That's such an important note, Bobbie. It's so, I'm just blown away by those names. I just can't imagine hating a group of people so much that's like, we need to come up with a name for this. We need to have our own.
Oh, no, they don't like those names.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
No. They consider those names derogatory, but that's how other people, usually other feminists, identify the feminists who are transphobic. And and there's also a term called white feminism.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean a white woman who's a feminist. It means you're practicing a feminism for white people, for
Right.
white women. And that tends to be kind of classist also.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're just trying to make people feel, you
Welcome.
know, like they belong and that
Yeah.
their voice matters. You know, there's so many people, so many comics who go, oh, PC culture,
Yeah.
PC culture is killing comedy. No, you're just having trouble keeping up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not having any trouble keeping up with woke culture because
Yeah.
I don't punch down. You know,
Right.
when I was raised in comedy, you know, when I came up as a young comic, I was always taught to punch up. You
Yeah.
don't punch down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't go after people society is already kicking.
Yeah.
You know, you don't make fun of homeless people for being homeless. You
That
go
was
after the
always one of my
system that put
biggest,
them there.
that was always one of my biggest issues is when people complain or made fun of homeless people. It's just like, unless you are
Yeah.
one, you can do it if you are one, but even then.
I mean, we all have experiences with homeless people, especially in Los Angeles. So talking about an experience is one thing, but using them as the punchline.
Yes.
When, by the way, you know, there but for the grace of God go I.
Mm-hmm.
We're all, especially right now, basically a paycheck away from being homeless.
Right. So
Right. So you know, Chris Rock said, you don't make fun of people who don't have it coming.
yeah.
Because why are you using your microphone to bully people? Why are you using your platform to be a bully?
Mm.
You know, I want to use my comedy powers for good.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, doesn't that just hurt themselves really when they spend all that time hating? I feel like it is. It's so much harder to hate people than it is to just accept people. I don't understand.
But there's a market for that.
Oh.
There's a market for bully comedy. There's a market for hateful comedy.
Yeah.
You know, there's a market for transphobia and homophobia and sexism and, you know. So, you know, here's the thing. You know, it's been said about the presidency. The presidency does not change who you are. It reveals who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy does not change who you are. It reveals who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all grow and change and learn, but I mean, if you're a jerk, I'm trying not to cuss. If you're a jerk, then you're going to do jerk comedy.
Yep.
If you give a crap about people, if you have empathy, that will show up in your work.
Yeah. That's very true.
And there's a market for both of those.
Unfortunately. Fortunately. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the Laugh Riot Grrrl Festival? What is this the 6th year?
The 6th year. Can you believe that?
Gosh, that's amazing.
I actually, before this, I produced the Eagle Rock Comedy Festival for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was up and down the streets of Eagle Rock, California, which is LA, like in all these different venues, you know, like sandwich shops and bookstores and all that. So this is actually the 10th festival I produced, but this is the Laugh Riot Grrrl Comedy Festival. And so it's inspired by the early 90s punk rock feminist movement, Riot Grrrl. And Riot Grrrl was bands like, you know, Bikini Kill and Huggy Bear and Slater Kinney. Carrie Brownstein from Portlandia, she's a Riot Grrrl.
Oh, yeah.
It was started by a woman named Kathleen Hanna. There's a movie about her, a documentary about her called The Punk Singer. But I really relate to that because it was a punk rock feminist movement. So it was punk rock women in a world, just like comedy, surrounded by men. The majority of the people in their industry were men. Not all of those men wanted them there.
Right.
And so it's one thing to be a feminist if you work in like Planned Parenthood and you're surrounded by women and they all support, you know, but when you're, you know, in an environment that's mostly male and you're isn't, you know, necessarily supportive of your craft, depending on the venue, to be a feminist in that, you have to be a badass bitch.
Yeah, you got to be ready for fights.
Right, you got to be ready. And you also have to be able to take some things that in any other industry women would not have to take and not be willing to take.
Mm.
We have to, we work in nightclubs where everyone's drinking. So, we
Yeah.
let a lot slide.
Yeah.
But we're talking about our opportunities and our place in this. And so so I've done a bunch of comedy festivals. Like I said earlier, everything I've ever done is a reaction to is as a result of a bad experience I had.
Uh-huh.
So I did a comedy festival. I've done tons of comedy festivals that had almost no women in it. I wrote a guy one year after I did this festival and said, hey, there are not very many women in this. Maybe next year you could try to have more women. Mm-hmm. And he said, not many women submitted. And I know for a fact that there are women funnier than me that submitted to that festival that got denied.
Yeah.
I know for a fact. So I said, I know some people submitted. Maybe next time you could just try to keep an eye out for that. Next year, same exact number of women. No more women, like 7 women in the whole festival. And I did a comedy festival, and the finals in Vegas, the meet and greet between the comedians and the bookers was at a strip club.
Oh, wow. What a welcoming environment for women.
And by the way, not every man wants to go talk business in a strip club.
Oh.
Not even every straight man wants to go talk business.
Right. It's an unusual place.
So I was like, hey, but then I did the Women in Comedy Festival in Boston and had a great experience.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I want to have a women's festival in Los Angeles. There should be a women's comedy festival in Los Angeles. Yeah. And so I based it on the Riot Grrrl movement. So that's why we're called Laugh Riot Grrrl. Mm-hmm. And so we have fewer people this year because of the quarantine. They'll probably end up on Zoom. Mm-hmm. But we have about 100 comics, most of which are women. Mm-hmm. And they're just from all over, we get women from all over, not just the country, but, the world. Yeah. And it's just a celebration. It's not a contest. It's not, it's not a prize. It's not, a competition. Right. It is a celebration of feminist comedy voices, women and men. And it's just, it's just a networking opportunity, just a fun, hilarious. So whenever people say not many women do comedy, they like to say that so that you can think that's why they didn't book it back. I like to send them a link. So like last year we had 130 comics, most of which are women. I like to send them a link. Here's over 100 comics that were women. And the reason why we only have 20 guys is because only 20 guys submitted. I've honestly, and not intentionally, just this is the way it worked out. I've accepted every man that has ever submitted to the Laugh Riot Comedy Grrrl.
Really?
Laugh Riot Grrrl Comedy Festival. Yeah. Yeah. Every man who's ever submitted, because they were all hilarious.
Yeah. Well, again, it's those men who are, comfortable in that environment. They're the ones who have worked hard and are funny. They're,
will thrive in rooms that are made up of all sorts of people and not just open micers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're a male comic, come to Tao Comedy Studio. Let us show you what it feels like to be in this warm, loving, supportive place with lots of female voices, and see how cool it is. The guys who come, they stay. Yeah. They come back.
Oh. Well, just going backwards, when is the festival this year?
It is, so the whole festival is June 8th through the 15th, but the shows are June 9th through the 14th. So that's Sunday through Thursday. There'll be 2 shows a night, so there's 12 shows. Yeah. You can watch it from anywhere in the world, because even if we are at Tao, there will still be a Zoom option. So there's no drink minimums on Zoom. You don't have to find parking, and pants are optional.
Yes.
So it's $5 a person to watch the show, and $10 a household, no matter how many people are in the household. And it's just so many hilarious people. Yeah. Just so many.
I'm a part of it this year. Shameless plug. I was so excited because I was a part of it. I think I was on maybe the first one. I think it was the
possibly.
Yeah. I was on in the early days of the festival, and then I moved out from Los Angeles, and I haven't been able to participate since because I haven't been able to get back there. And then when this happened, I mean, obviously, I don't want this pandemic going on. But a small bright spot for me was that I was able to participate in this festival again. It's been the cool thing is all the Zoom shows all over the world. And
yeah, and you can do our Zoom open mics if you want to get ready between now and then.
yeah. I actually just did one that was like a New York based. And I was like, well, this is cool. I've never performed for a New York based comedy thing, but here we are, because it's just everybody's, you can go anywhere now as far as your comedy shows.
Yeah, we always have women from New York come to the festival, but now they don't have to come if they don't want to. They can just Zoom.
They can just Zoom in. I think it's gonna be fun. It's interesting, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
We have a woman that's going to be Zooming from India.
Whoa! Wow.
Last night I was looking up the time difference to try to figure out which show to put her in that would be the easiest on her. Yeah, so it's going to be, and people can watch it. You know, we do shows, you know, most Saturday nights, and there are comics whose families have never seen them do comedy, who have been able to watch from, you know, from another state.
Yeah.
And we even have had people from Canada watch the show, and so it's been, you know, it has been I have people in my comedy class right now who, one is in Kansas City, another one is in the Bay Area. So it's been, you know, that has been a huge plus that's made that available. And so I think going forth, even when we are physically all back in the same place, I will always have a Zoom option for my comedy classes from now on.
Yeah. I mean, I think why not? I think that's what we're kind of learning out of this, where it's like, it's that old, the meme that I saw at the beginning where it's like, oh, I guess we'll figure out what meeting could have been an email instead of an actual face-to-face meeting. And like, for so long, I mean, I never would have seen a digital platform working. I was very skeptical at first when I started seeing all these shows pop up. There's a lot actually in the Cleveland area, which is I'm located in. There was a lot of pushback. People were in the comedy scene up here, it's much smaller, and they were very nervous that if we have these Zoom shows, then nobody's going to want to come actually see us in person again, which is, I found kind of ridiculous. But
people are going to be dying to go see comedy when they finally can.
They won't even care how bad you are. They'll just be happy to be out. But yeah, now it's been fun seeing the Zoom shows and how they've been working. I think it's been a very positive thing.
Yeah, the way I feel about it, Zoom shows are like Joe Biden. They're better than nothing.
I was like, oh, where are you going with this? That's exactly it.
They're not ideal, but we'll take it.
We'll take it. You did mention your mics. I mean, you have mics pretty much going every night, right?
Well, we have the Women Only is on Monday, the LGBT plus allies, and if you're just a friend of the LGBT community, you can do this as long as you're not a homophobic douchebag.
Yeah,
you can do it Tuesdays, and then we have regular mics on Fridays at 8 and Sundays at 5.
Is there a cost for people to watch those or participate in those? Or is it
well, normally it's $5, but right now we're doing a suggested donation of $5.
Okay.
Because we understand that some comedians are broke right now and need a mic, but also, you know, we're trying to keep Tao Comedy Studio alive.
You guys have overhead.
Obviously, we still have rent. Yeah. We still have, but our shows, we do shows most Saturday nights, and those are $5 to watch, and they're really fun, and you know, people should. Follow Tao Comedy Studio, which is spelled Tao Comedy Studio, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On Instagram, I'm the Bobbie Oliver, Bobbie, the Bobbie Oliver, and you know, I post all the flyers for the mics, the shows, the festival. I'm going to be sending y'all the lineups. I did the lineups till 4:00 this morning.
Oh wow! Oh my god!
Yeah, getting everybody in the 12 shows.
Yeah,
and you know. We post about all, and we have a Comedians Depression Support Group, which is now on Zoom, and it's free. We've had it for years, but now it's on Zoom. It's always been free.
Wow.
So if you're a comedian, then you're obviously depressed.
Yes.
So, you know, you can hit us up for that. That's once a month. Yeah. And we've been doing dance parties on Wednesdays, free dance parties. And so we have a playlist, and you can also email us in advance song requests.
Uh-huh.
And we have a bunch of people who do it with us. It's
How
usually about
fun.
10 of us. And some of us hula hoop, like I have a hula hoop.
Uh-huh.
Some of us hula hoop, and you see all these people dancing. Some of them bring their kids. Some are hula hooping. And it's like so fun, like when Madonna's Vogue comes on,
Yeah.
you see all the little boxes, everyone's going, come on. It is so, it's really been the highlight of you know, the quarantine, because it's a great way to exercise, move your body, see other people, listen to good music, have a good time. Usually lasts about an hour and 15 minutes. You know, so we'll be having one tomorrow. We'll post all the info. You know, it's free, it's fun. And that, you know, honestly, in a way, I'm actually coming together more with people than, you know, than when just I was at work. It's like, hey, how are you? Fine, how are you? You know, now we're really like coming together, you know. I feel like, you know, this is bringing everyone together. We're like an entire world of people not wearing pants. We're just one.
Well, I do want to briefly mention you also do comedy coaching, which you kind of mentioned before.
Yes, I've been teaching comedy for 16 years. I've taught thousands of comedians. And you can buy my book, The Tao of Comedy, Embrace the Pause, either from me, if you want it quicker, or from Amazon. Or if you get it from me, I'll sign it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we have a website, taocomedystudio.com. You can check it out there.
Okay. Yeah, I always like to ask, especially with authors, it's like, where is the best way for people to buy your book that supports you? Yeah. Last
night on the mic, there were 3 different people who bought the book, and one of them bought it from, and the 2 who got it from me got it within a week, and the person who bought it from Amazon, it took 4 weeks.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Quicker than Amazon.
Yeah, that's my new motto. Quicker than Amazon.
Quicker than Amazon. So everyone should go to, do you recommend people go to Tao Comedy Studio for the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, either taocomedystudio.com or Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm the one that runs all the pages, so it's me.
Oh, good. Well, I hope people should really be involved in what you got. You have such a special place, such a special philosophy as far as comedy and life, and I think it really, I mean, you help people, which I love. You're not just in it for comedy, even though wherever it started out, but you really help people. So I thank you for all the hard work you're doing. You and Chris both. I know you guys put in your heart and soul into what you do. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here today. It was just really lovely talking to you today.
Thank you for having me. It's been so long since I've seen your face kind of in person.
I know.
That it's just so good to see you. And I demand you send me pictures of that baby.
Oh, I will. Yep. I'll send you photos. And then now I'll be a part of the festival as well. And so people can look forward to that.
And I'm sending out the lineups today, so you'll know when you're going to be up, and I'll get them posted on the festival website and stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Bobbie. So good to talk to you again.
Thank you. Everybody, keep your chin up, stay home, and wash your hands.
Yes. That's perfect. Thanks again.
Thank you.